A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court by Mark Twain, Chapter 33, 6th Century Political Economy. However, I made a deal set at him, and before the first third of the dinner was reached, I had him happy again. It was easy to do, in a country of ranks and castes. You see, in a country where they have ranks and castes, a man isn't ever a man. He is only part of a man. He can't ever get his full growth. You prove your superiority over him in station or rank or fortune, and that's the end of it. He knuckles down. You can't insult him after that. No, I don't mean quite that, of course. You can insult him. I only mean it's difficult, and so, unless you've got a lot of useless time on your hands, it doesn't pay to try. I had the smith's reverence now, because I was apparently immensely prosperous and rich. I could have had his adoration if I only had some little gimcrack of title or of nobility, and not only his, but any commoner's in the land, though he were the mightiest production of the ages in intellect, worth, and character, and I bankrupt in all three. This was to remain so long as England should exist on earth. With the spirit of prophecy upon me, I could look into the future and see her erect statues and monuments to her unspeakable Georges and other royal and noble clothes horses, and leave unhonored the creators of this world, after God, Gutenberg, Watt, Arkwright, Whitney, Morse, Stevenson, Bell. The king got his cargo abroad, and then, the talk not turning upon battle, conquest, or ironclad duel, he dulled down to drowsiness and went off to take a nap. Mrs. Marco cleared the table, placed the beer keg handy, and went away to eat her dinner of leavings in humble privacy, and the rest of us soon drifted into matters near and dear to the hearts of our sort, business and wages, of course. At a first glance, things appeared to be exceedingly prosperous in this little tributary kingdom, whose lord was King Bagdemagus, as compared with the state of things in my own region. They had the protection system in full force here, whereas we were working along down toward free trade by easy stages, and were now about halfway. Before long, Dowley and I were doing all the talking, the others hungrily listening. Dowley warmed to his work, snuffed an advantage in the air, and began to put questions which he considered awkward ones for me, and they did have something of that look. "In your country, brother, what is the wage of a master bailiff, master hind, carter, shepherd, swineherd?" 25 milrays a day, that is to say, a quarter of a cent. The smith's face beamed with joy. He said, "With us, they are allowed the double of it. And what may a mechanic get? Carpenter, dauber, mason, painter, blacksmith, wheelwright, and the like, on the average 50 milrays, half a cent a day." "Oh-ho! With us, they are allowed 100. With us, any good mechanic is allowed a cent a day. I count out the tailor, but not the others. They are allowed a cent a day, and in driving times they get more. Yes, up to 110, and even 15 milrays a day. I've paid 115 myself within a week. Rah, the protection, and Sheol with free trade." And his face shone upon the company like a sunburst, but I didn't scare at all. I rigged up my pile driver and allowed myself 15 minutes to drive him into the earth. Drive him all in. Drive him in till not even the curve of his skull should show above ground. Here is the way I started on him. I said, "What do you pay a pound for salt?" 100 milrays. "We pay 40. What do you pay for beef and mutton when you buy it?" That was a little neat. It made the color come. "It varieth somewhat, but not much. One may say 75 milrays the pound. We pay 33. What do you pay for eggs?" 50 milrays the dozen. We pay 20. What do you pay for beer?" "It costeth us 8, and 1/2 milrays the pint. We get it for 4. 25 bottles for a cent. What do you pay for wheat?" "At the rate of 900 milrays the bushel. We pay 400. What do you pay for a man's tow linen suit?" 13 cents. We pay 6. What do you pay for a stuff gown for the wife of the laborer or the mechanic?" "We pay 8 cents, 4 mills. "Well, observe the difference. You pay 8 cents and 4 mills. We pay only 4 cents. I prepared now to sock it to him. I said, "Look here, dear friend, What's become of your high wages you were bragging so about a few minutes ago? And I looked around, and I looked around on the company with placid satisfaction, for I had slipped up on him gradually and tied him hand and foot, you see, without his ever noticing that he was being tied at all. What's become of those noble high wages of yours? I seem to have knocked the stuffing all out of them, it appears to me. But if you will believe me, he merely looked surprised, and that's all. He didn't grasp the situation at all. Didn't know he had walked into a trap. Didn't discover that he was in a trap. I could have shot him from sheer vexation. With cloudy eyes, a struggling intellect, he fetched this out. Mary, I seem not to understand. It is proved that our wages be double thine. How may it be that thou'st knocked therefore the stuffing? And I miscall not the wordly word, this being the first time under grace and providence of God it has been granted me to hear it. Well, I was stunned, partly with this unlooked-for stupidity on his part, and partly because his fellows so manifestly sided with him, and were of his mind. If you might call it a mind, my position was simple enough, plain enough. How could it ever be simplified more? However, I must try. Why, look here, Brother Dowley, don't you see your wages are merely higher than ours in name, not in fact? Yes, I don't deny that at all, but that's got nothing to do with it. The amount of the wages in mere sense, with meaningless names attached to... Oh, skip something. Hear him. They are double. You have confessed it yourself. Yes, I don't deny that at all. But that's got nothing to do with it. The amount of the wages in mere coins, with meaningless names attached to them, to know them by, has got nothing to do with it. The thing is, how much can you buy with your wages? That's the idea. Well, it is true that with you a good mechanic is allowed from $3.50 a year, with us only about $1.75. There! You're confessing again. You're confessing it again. Confound it, I've never denied it, I tell you. What I say is this. With us, half a dollar buys more than $1 buys with you, and therefore it stands to reason that the commonest kind of common sense, that our wages are higher than yours. He looked very dazed and said desperately, Verily, I cannot make it out. You've just said ours are higher, and with the same breath you take it back. Great Scott, isn't it possible to get such a simple thing through your head? Now look here, let me illustrate. We pay 4 cents for a woman's stuff gown. You pay 8 cents 4 mills, which is 4 mills more than double. What do you allow a laboring woman who works on a farm? 2 mills a day. Very good. We allow but half as much. We pay her only 1/10 of a cent a day, and... Again, you're Wait, now you see, the thing is very simple. This time you'll understand it. For instance, it takes your woman 42 days to earn her gown at 2 mills a day, 7 weeks' work, but ours earns hers in 40 days, 2 days short of 7 weeks. Your woman has a gown, and her whole 7 weeks' wages are gone. Ours has a gown and 2 days' wages left to buy something else with. There, now you understand it? He merely looked dubious. It's the most I can say. So did the others. I waited to let the thing work. Dowley spoke at last, and betrayed the fact that he actually hadn't gotten away from his rooted and grounded superstitions yet. He said with a trifle of hesitancy, But ye cannot fail to grant that 2 mills a day is better than 1. Shucks, well, of course I hated to give it up, so I chanced another flyer. Let us suppose a case. Suppose one of your journeymen goes out and buys the following articles. 1 pound of salt, 1 dozen eggs, 1 dozen pints of beer, 1 bushel of wheat, 1 tow linen suit, 5 pounds of beef, 5 pounds of mutton. The lot will cost him 32 cents. It takes him 32 working days to earn the money, 5 weeks and 2 days. Let him come to us and work 32 days at half the wages. He can buy all those things for a shade under 14.5 cents. They will cost him a shade under 29 days' work. and he will have about half a week's wages over. Carry it through the year. He would save nearly a week's wages every 2 months. Your man, nothing's thus saving 5 or 6 weeks' wages a year, your man not a cent. Now I reckon you understand that high wages and low wages are phrases that don't mean anything in the world until you find out which of them will buy the most. It was a crusher. But alas, it didn't crush. No, I had to give it up. What those people valued was high wages. It didn't seem to matter of any consequence to them whether the high wages would buy anything or not. They stood for protection, and swore by it, which was reasonable enough because interested parties had gulled them into the notion that it was protection which had created their high wages. I proved to them that in a quarter of a century their wages had advanced but 30%, while the cost of living had gone up 100, and that with us, in a shorter time, wages had advanced 40%, while the cost of living had gone steadily down. But it didn't do any good. Nothing could unseat their strange beliefs. Well, I was smarting under a sense of defeat, undeserved defeat, but what of that? That didn't soften the smart any. And to think of the circumstances, the first statement of age, the capablest man, the best informed in the entire world, the loftiest uncrowned head that had moved through the clouds of any political firmament for centuries, sitting here, apparently defeated in argument by an ignorant country blacksmith. And I could see that those others were sorry for me, which made me blush till I could smell my whiskers scorching. Put yourself in my place. Feel as mean as I did, as ashamed as I felt. Wouldn't you have struck below the belt to get even? Yes, you would. It is simply human nature. Well, that is what I did. I am not trying to justify it. I am only saying that I was mad, and anybody would have done it. Well, when I make up my mind to hit a man, I don't plan out a love tap. No, that isn't my way. As long as I'm going to hit him at all, I'm going to hit him a lifter. And I don't jump at him all of a sudden and risk making a blundering halfway business of it. No, I get away off yonder to one side and work up on him gradually, so that he never suspects that I'm going to hit him at all. And by, all in a flash, he's flat on his back, and he can't tell for the life of him how it all happened. That is the way I went for Brother Dowley. I started talking lazy and comfortable, as if I was just talking to pass the time, and the oldest man in the world couldn't have taken the bearings of my starting place and guessed where I was going to fetch up. Boys, there's a good many curious things about a law and custom, and usage and all that sort of thing, when you come to look at it, yes, and about the drift and progress of human opinion and movement, too. There are written laws, they perish, and there are also unwritten laws. They are eternal. Take the unwritten law of wages. It says they've got to advance, little by little, straight through the centuries, and notice how it works. We know what wages are now, here and there, and yonder we strike an average, and say that's the wages of today. We know what the wages were 100 years ago, and what they were 200 years ago. That's as far back as we can get, but it suffices to give us the law of progress, the measure and rate of periodical augmentation, and so, without a document to help us, we can come pretty close to determining what the wages were 3 or 4 or 500 and 500 years ago. Good so far. Do we stop there? No, we stop looking backward. We face around and apply the law to the future. My friends, I can tell you what people's wages are going to be at any date in the future you want to know, for hundreds and hundreds of years. Well, good man, what? Well, in 700 years, wages will have risen 6 times what they are now here in your region, and farm hands will be allowed 3 cents a day, and mechanics 6. And here we will pause.